Okay. My apartment is a mess right now, but today is cleaning day, so. But that's not why I'm here. Okay, I'm. Why? Okay. Yes. So, as some of y'all may already know, I am writing a book. Yay! So, I've been writing, like, you all already know how long I've been talking about this for a very, very long time. When I say long time, I'm talking about 4 or 5 years. It's that long. But, there's still a but. I have finished. Like, this is my last draft. This is my final draft. This is the one that I'm actually going to use. Right now, I'm still editing a few things I'm just reading through. I'm a perfectionist, okay? I just have to make it perfect before I send it out. Like, this is my first book, y'all. It's my first ever book. Like, yeah, I'm gonna make sure it's absolutely fucking perfect. The fuck? Like, it's a no-brainer, of course. But, yeah, I'll probably publish my book around late April or early May. For me personally, I think it's going to be done around early May. But here's my cover. It's so pretty. I didn't make the cover myself, but the girl, she did it for me. I'm going to tag her accounts and everywhere in the description and the comments. I'm also going to tag it here as well, so y'all can see. She did it perfectly for me, okay? Like, when I even asked for that cover, okay, I know this has nothing to do with the video, but like when I asked for that cover, I had no idea how exactly it should be. All I knew was that I need to have a cover, and she helped me through it all. So, yeah. But the point of this whole video is just to talk about how exactly did I go out there to like write a book. So, okay, now that I've sat down, I need to be comfortable because, I'm going to be here for a while. Now, in writing. So, to be more precise, what I'm putting out there is a fantasy book. It could still apply to any other book as well, but it just depends. I think the first step in writing a book, I know everyone says this all the time, but outline. Outline is the most important thing to start with. Because when you have an outline, that means you have like a note to keep you on track. When I first wrote, I didn't even have an outline. Sometimes when you start writing the first draft, you don't really think about an outline. You just want to write so you don't forget. You just think, it just depends on how educated you are as a writer. To be precise, I don't think anyone could be fully educated for being a writer. Writing just comes from the gut, it comes from the heart, it comes from what you've been imagining in your head that you're putting into words. That's how I view it for me. But despite that, after that first draft, if you forgot to write an outline, when you read through that first draft, you understand why you need that outline. That outline keeps you on track. And yes, in that outline, you don't need... Okay, when you write that outline, sometimes if you decide to write draft 2, for example, now, draft 2 might not be the perfect one. Some people are lucky enough to have that be sent out. But when there's like the second draft, now you read through that second draft again, because now you've used your outline for that second draft, it's okay to also revisit. Because there are some times, when I wrote my own book, I had multiple drafts. It took me since, I was in 9th grade when I started this book, okay? It took me a long, long time. I always had the vision of Rain of Ashes in my head. I knew what I wanted, but I just had to put it into words. Putting things to words are not that easy. No one is completely that good in being descriptive, but you just have to imagine. I think having an imaginative mind is like the best step in being a writer. That's what I think. But when I first started, I didn't have a outline. My first draft, I was just going. I didn't know that much about being an author or how it's all the steps. I just wanted to write. Sometimes it's okay to just want to write. Sometimes you don't want to educate yourself a little bit more. Sometimes you just want to write. That's just the passion of being a writer. Sometimes you just have that need to do what you want to do, and that's perfectly fine. But like I said, you still need to properly carry things out the right way. So the outline is the first thing that you have to get, and like I said, you can always revisit. There's some things in my outline, even in draft 2, that I rewrote again, and when I read through the work, I was like, oh, I don't like this storyline. You can always revisit your outline as well. That's perfectly fine. You can revisit, you can keep some things, or maybe if you want to keep that thing, you can also like refresh it and write it a little bit better. Let it be polished, or you can even remove some things. That's perfectly fine. It just depends on the plots, and just make sure the plot actually flows well. Because you could be writing for hours and hours and hours, and there's no ending to that plot. And that's exactly what happened to me in draft 1. Because draft 1, it was so fucking long. Excuse my language, but it was so long. It was like 2,000 pages because I didn't have an ending. I was just writing from the guts. That's fine to even write from the guts. Just write what you want. But like I said, the outline is important because it keeps you on track. And the second thing is always have a draft. Never take the first draft seriously. Don't take it seriously. Like, girl, it's not that important. Just the point of the first draft is just like lay down your imagination. Just write. It's not gonna be perfect, and that's perfectly fine. Ain't nobody gonna wake up one day and magically become the god of writing. Like, girl, it's okay. It's okay. Just write down what you want, what you feel, and go with the flow. And that's exactly what I did. I wrote down what I want, wrote down what I felt. And yes, it wasn't that good. But like I said, it's just the first draft. And if you're like me, see, my whole first draft story is actually quite funny if you think about it. Because I didn't know shit about being an author or a writer. I wrote that book so many times. Like, I changed the storyline so many times. The first time I uploaded it on Dream, but it didn't get the views that I wanted, and it was completely different from how I imagined. So, but the second time again, when she said, you know what, let me publish instead of putting it on Dream, and I wrote, and I thought to myself, girl, you ate that. So I said, you know what, if this is so good, let me just check for publishers, indie publishers, try like big shop publishers, and send out my work. And I did, and I got so many rejection letters.
You're stupid. You're not smart. You're not smart.
And I cried like shit. I cried like I think I swore to myself never to write again. Like, I was so upset, but it just made me think that, you know what, they took their time to pause, read my work, read my ideas, give me a few pointers. I'm gonna take this as a win, but even if I failed, that's perfectly fine. There's always like a little bit of fail in publishing. I think it's part of life. You listen and you get better in it. The first draft is never meant to be important. It's just meant to be your ideas. Like, the first, you're just spraying out what you want, what you're imagining, and that's perfectly fine. Like I said, to me, a writer always has to do with imagination. You can't be a writer if you can't be imaginative. I mean, it depends, but for me personally, I just feel like you have to have that imaginative mind, because I had the story in my head since I was in the 8th, 9th grade. It was always implanted in my head. Like, I would literally act out the characters, like, in my room. I would write things down. I had dozens of notebooks of like creating a whole fake ass kingdom, this like some drama, some plots. I always had that in my mind because like it's just what I always imagined, until I decided, you know what, let me write this into a book. So that's like how you imagine your first draft. Your first draft is just your imagination, how you can write it in your words without any corrections, without any need to make this perfect. No one intends to take the first draft. I mean, from what I think, no one intends to do that, and that's perfectly fine. And my third point is that when you write in the outline, ensure that you have like chapter outlines as well. Because I've seen a lot of people talking about how they didn't know how to put an end to a story, yada 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 yada. See, having an outline gives you like a perfect time to, break down the chapters as well. Because you can't just randomly write a chapter. Because when you do, you also lose part of the plot. When you write the chapters, like you have like the chapters outline, that means you can also revisit back, see, okay, this happened in this chapter, so that means I don't need to bring this up in this chapter again, or that means I should do this instead. It gives you a clear point. See, it doesn't matter being a professional, it just means your plot is on point. Because there are so many people that could write like a book and you can tell exactly that they don't know how this is gonna end. And when you have that chapter outline, it helps you. Trust me. Like I said, my first draft was terrible. It was 2,000 pages, and this was all because I didn't know how to put an end to the story. I was just writing. It didn't make no sense, actually. To be quite frank, it didn't make any sense. So it was really frustrating for me because I thought I was doing a good job. But like I said, having a chapter outline gives you a more clearer view of how you want to write. That's just how I think. I think this is the fourth point. For fantasy writers, see, I feel like fantasy is the kind of genre that's both hard, but at the same time, it's good. Like, it's really, really easy to do as well. Because when you have fantasy, remember, you're creating a whole new world. You have a whole world on your fingertips. Like, you can literally do anything as long as it makes sense. And that's the fun part about writing fantasy. But at the same time, though, you have to make sure it makes sense. Like, let's say you want to build a kingdom. Let's say you want to make let's say you want to make a kingdom, or you want to make a village, or you want to do something else, or maybe it's a historical fantasy. Why choose this historical period? What's the reasoning behind that historical period? What does it hold? Since you're making a fantasy, what you're adding right now, how will it hold in that historical period? You get, like, and other than that, like, also the language as well. Like, do these people speak this language as well? How does this work? How are they friends? How do they cooperate? Like, fantasy as a whole, you need to think. And if you're writing about a kingdom, you might think, okay, wait, what's the history about it? What's the origin about it? You can't just randomly, a kingdom not happening like that. No, every kingdom in real life has a story. The Tudors had a story. The Yorks had a story. The Ottomans had a story. They all had a story. And since you want to create your own world yourself, you should think it out. That's the thing. When I first started fantasy, that's exactly when my first few drafts sucked. I had 3 drafts, okay, that I didn't like. In the past, how many years? I think 5-6 years that I've written this book. These 3 drafts were the worst. And I think I didn't take advantage of the fact that I'm writing a fantasy world. Like, I didn't even explore it at all. I just said it's a fantasy world. I just created a fake continent. I didn't even like delve well into it. I didn't even talk about the kingdom, the politics, all those type of things. You have to make sure it delves more into it. That's the whole point of fantasy. You could have fun in writing it, but at the same time, though, there are some aspects where you have to think wider. And some people might think it's hard, but it's really not. Fantasy, it's everything goes on your fingertips. You're the puppet, like you're the puppeteer. Okay, you're the master. You have the advantage to do what you want to do. It's your book, it's your world. Like, this is a fake world that doesn't exist. Like, you've lived through other things in this life and you're thinking, okay, you know what, let me make my own fake world. And sometimes it doesn't have to be, I'm thinking medieval times. It could even be dystopian and you're creating a whole new world. Even in dystopian books, you have to think of a reason. Why exactly is it dystopian? Why is this a very unsafe world? Why are they unhappy? Why are they in that kind of situation? Explain. There's a reason why books like Divergence, The Hunger Games, it delves well into why they are in that kind of situation. And I think the best person that I've like the best book I've read where fantasy is done so well, like the thing about fantasy is that you have to make them believe. When you're writing a fantasy world, you have to make them believe that this kind of thing could have been happening. Like, yes, we have mythical creatures in there. We have mythical beings, powers that don't make no sense. Yes, that could also happen. But at the same time, convince your readers, okay? Like, let them live through this whole new. Like, I think they're reading a history book, basically, and I think that's that. I think that's why I chose J.R.R.M. as my inspiration in my work. I know everyone talks about him, but how he writes, it's so convincing. Like, you think to yourself, wait, did this actually happen? And when he decides to write a history book, like a history book for the Targaryens, keep in mind, these people have dragons. They're inbred. They do all of these things. But yet, it's so believable. Like, I'm sorry, this just shows how good of a writer he is, because he's convincing me. And how he wrote it is like, I think it takes years for someone to actually sit down and think of every possibility, and that's a very good thing to have as a writer, because you want your readers to believe. And this is my last point, but I see a lot of people have inspirations from books, which is a good thing. Like I said, I have my inspiration as well. But you have to make sure this book, it's yours. It's your mind. It's your imagination. Always have that imagination. But don't copy. Because when you copy, it doesn't make the book yours. And sometimes when you do, the plot doesn't even make sense at the same time as well. The plot is the most important thing. Make sure it carries well. Make sure your readers are understanding where it's going. Or if you don't want your readers to understand that, but at the same time, you can also make it unpredictable in a way that's like, oh wait, this author is like keeping me entertained. Not in a way where you just don't understand anything. Because I would rather my readers be to be like, what the word? To be surprised in a plot, to be wait, this have to be shocked in a plot, to like not see this coming in a plot, but at the same time they're engaged, now to not understand anything that they're reading. Because that's exactly where it goes wrong. You need to understand where it's going. The characters have to make sense. The plot has to carry well. Because if it doesn't carry well, how does that bode well for your book? It doesn't, because it doesn't have like a climax, it doesn't have an endpoint, it doesn't have anything, it's just there. You can have inspiration, but at the same time, don't make that book yours. That's not about writing. Everything is for you. You can make it for you. Like, why would you want to take everything from somebody else rather than make it all yours? Inspiration is a good thing. If someone had this in their book, you can think, okay, wait, I want to have this as well. But at the same time, write it in a way that makes it yours. And like I said, just make sure it makes sense, because there are some books where they had inspiration, but the book still like sounds like it's theirs. And there's some books where they had inspiration, but they copied the same exact plot, but it doesn't bode well in that story. Like, it doesn't go with that plot at all. I've seen some books that have that, because it doesn't have, like, what's the word? There are some people that just have, what they call it again, good characters and bad plots, or they had good plots and bad characters. I would rather have a good plot. Okay, I would rather have a good plot, because if I'm reading for the character, then I'm never gonna know what the story is about. Make a story that carries well. Make a story that makes sense. It's that simple. I hope I didn't bore you all. But yeah, this is just what I think. I'm not professional. I'm still like, editing my work. So I'm not a professional in writing. I'm not professional in anything yet. I don't think anyone's gonna be professional in writing that good well, except from JRM. He's my favorite author. Like his work, his work on its own is just fascinating. Fire and Blood, the whole plot, the whole point of Fire and Blood, the whole point of how dragons were gone or the dance of dragons. It's so, you can tell that person took time. It took years for that kind of plot to happen. And well, I really hope that happens to me in my book and how people feel in my book. But for now, thank you for listening. I've been in the hiatus for a long time because I have a lot of things that I'm doing, okay? I'm doing my book. Self-publishing is not easy. It's a very hard task that not much people can do because sometimes I feel like giving up the whole thing, but I really want to get my word out there to say that, yeah, I'm a writer now. I'm an author. I'm a writer, but I want to be an author. And I hope my few words helped anyone. And yeah, thank you for listening. Make sure to subscribe and just let y'all know, keep your kindness up to date, okay, for my book, please. I wrote that book for 5 years. Please, I wouldn't mind if I get at least 2 readers, two people to read my book. I don't care. Like, that's even going to be the biggest accomplishment I've ever had in my life. But yeah, see you soon. I'm probably gonna make another video again, probably next Friday, but no promises.